Do you have a bloated, messy photo library? Are you tired of dodgy, slow online compressing and background removal sites that are lacking in features and or ridiculously expensive? This is a problem I face too, and that's why I decided to build a solution. This is CompressMy.Photos, a new SaaS app that will blow you away. Imagine reducing the size of a photo by more than half quickly and easily, or removing the background from an image in just a few clicks. That's the power of this app. Welcome everyone to another video with me, Tilly. I apologize for this intro. I actually don't. In this course, I'm going to show you how I built my first photo compression and simple editing suite with Laravel 11, Livewire 3, and Stripe. I'm going to walk you through how this platform is built, from powerful file handling to seamless user subscriptions with Stripe. You'll see exactly how I created a scalable modern SaaS platform that solves real problems. Whether you're looking to build a side hustle or launch a new SaaS empire, this course is packed with great content to help you get started. I structured this video into several chapters, so feel free to scrub around and look for the parts you really need. I'll give you the information you can adapt and create a SaaS app of your very own. So let's dive in and I'll show you how I built this app. So to get started with, let's create a new application in here, and I'm going to call this CompressMy.Photos. We want to use Laravel Jetstream in this case, and I'm going to set it up with Livewire. I'm not going to set up dark mode, but I'm going to set up email verification. We're going to use PES for testing, and while this is installing, let's set up our PHP Storm project. So if we go in here, we can then go ahead and open up a new project. So while this is installing, we have a few more things we need to just sort out in here. I'm going to be using PostgreSQL throughout this course, and I'm going to say no to running the migrations for now. So the first thing we want to go ahead and install in here is just to get started with installing all the things we need for this application. So I'm going to install Laravel Scout. Even though we're not going to be setting it up immediately, we are going to be setting up Melee Search as well. So let's get ahead and just install that for now. And I'm also going to go down here and set up Melee Search here if you haven't already. And outside of that, the other thing we want to go ahead and install is going to be Spatty Image, which we're going to be using to process images in the background. To set up Spatty Image correctly for the optimization of images, you would need to go in here and make sure you have something along the lines of, let's say, in this case, you could have any of these installed here. So on macOS, you could install it like this. On your Ubuntu server, you can install it like this. And for CentOS, you can install it just like this. So basically, these will allow us to then go ahead and optimize the images, which will be sort of like lossless compression, so you really won't see much of a difference in it, but you'll use these tools here, so you can read about the individual tool and how it works. In this case, I've already installed all of these, so I'm not going to go ahead and install them again. So essentially, Spatty Image also has the opportunity in here to set the quality of an image. So not only can we optimize it, but we can also go ahead and set the quality. We can also change the contrast, the gamma, and colorize it. And we can change other things such as the width and the height, and resize it. So if we go ahead and look at quality, we can, for example, say quality 20% or different ones. So you can essentially range from 0 to 100. So that way we can optimize the image and then put it through a quality lossy compression. So basically we will reduce the quality of the image, and you can achieve an even higher file size reduction. But for now, after this is sorted, I'm gonna go ahead now and open up our env file in here, and I'm gonna go ahead and just open up this application here. And as a starter, we see there's an issue here with SQL state. That's fine. So we'll go ahead and get everything set up in the configuration in here now. Alright, so we want to get started with setting up the database settings in here. So for this part, I'm gonna go ahead and just copy and paste my SQL settings here, and I'm gonna call this CompressMy.Photos. So we need to go ahead and also create a database for this now. So let's go ahead and open up Table Plus. And there we go. So with that sorted, we can go ahead in here now and migrate this. And then let's create a model in here, which we're gonna call image. And for this image model, we do want to use has factory, and we're gonna have a user relationship. So let's go ahead and say belongs to user return. This belongs to user class. And let's head into our migration now for create image table here. In here, we're gonna have a fair few different things set it up. So as a starter, we will have a foreign ID in here, which we're gonna call use ID. It's gonna be constrained, and we're gonna undelete cascade. We're also gonna have a file name in here, and we're gonna have a description in here, which we can set later on, but we're gonna set that as a text, and we're gonna make that nullable. So after we've added in the description, we want to go ahead and add in a table string in here for original file path and an optimized file path. We're also going to go ahead and add in an integer size, which we're going to use to calculate when a user has reached the storage limit, so that we don't end up having someone with too much storage. We're going to just calculate it from the images table. And we're also going to have a MIME type. We're going to have a JSON with filters in here so that we can see which filters have been applied. And again, we'll keep the original image every time. The reason for that is that if we keep the original image, we can then always go ahead and change it again and make more modifications later on. So maybe later part in the application myself, I'll add a feature where we can add in multiple variants of these. So this is probably due to change. This is just some of the way I've built the application for now. However, I am intending on making it better throughout the time, and this course won't show you all of the code I've written. I'm just going through some of it to show you the process I've gone through. So after we've done that, we want to go ahead and add in a string in here of location. So we could try to extract that from photos taken on a phone just to make the search function better. And date taken. And then we also want to have the metadata so we can try to again improve the search function. For now, these bits down here, I haven't had a chance to implement anything around here yet, but that is the goal for the future, to do that. So after that's sorted, we can go ahead and migrate this now. Actually, sorry, we need to add in, I think, a few more things in here. For the background removal, we could go ahead and add this into the filters array, or we could add that in separately if we want to. So if we add it into the filters array, it would essentially just be an array in here, for example, background process, background removal process, for example. So something like that. But I think we can just leave it like that and add it into the filters table, because it should be pretty easy to extract. So I'm gonna go ahead and migrate this now. And for this one then, if we head into our image model, in here we can then say protected cast, and in this case we have filters and metadata as an array and date taken as datetime. And then we will have a protected fillable in here. Now for this one, I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste all the values into here. This is just all the values we had in the migration. Given we already installed Laravel Scout, I'm going to make this searchable as well for now, so that we can search the values in here. Alright, so that's now sorted. So let's go ahead and take a look at how we could implement the relevant things for Livewire. So first and foremost, let's go ahead and create a Livewire page. And we will call this dashboard. We then want to go ahead and create a home page. And we want to create an upload page. That's the three main pages that exist in the current production page as well. So we could go ahead and use these pages here. However, I think we can get rid of it for now because we don't really want to use the default dashboard page anyway. And I prefer to have it in the Livewire component just because that makes it a bit easier. So for this one here, we can just go ahead inside here to dashboard and just make sure it renders view. If we head into our Livewire configuration, then one of the issues you may encounter in here is, for example, inside, so we need to publish the Livewire configuration first, so let's do that. So in here you will see that we currently say that it should be inside components for the app layout, but I actually just want to have it inside layouts.app, so that would be referencing views, layouts, app.blade.php. That means we do not have to go into our dashboard page and specify the layout attribute here. We can just avoid that altogether. So I'm just going to add a title attribute in here called dashboard. And that then sets the page title to dashboard. Then inside web.php, we want to go ahead and add in the Livewire component. So I'm going to call this dashboard class. We're going to import this class, and that's it. Now we have the dashboard page just loading from there instead, and it looks a bit tidier. So now we can go ahead and register or log into the application. So after this now, let's go ahead and work more on the upload page, because we're going to have to work a lot on that. So we want to go ahead and create a component in here called Livewire make components. In this case, let's call this file upload. And inside a file upload component, that's where we want to be able to upload everything and set up the filters. Now, for UI, we want to use something called Luvi, which is Livewire package. So we can go ahead and set that up now. We just need to go ahead and require it. Publish the component using this tag. So we do this is basically like ChatCDN, just built for Livewire. It doesn't have all of the components yet, but for example, this is how we could publish the alert component. And then outside of that, we just need to make sure we install the relevant Alpine plugins here. And we can just go ahead and add this in as well to our app.js file. Alright, so now that's sorted, we could even go further, but I think we will leave this for now, and we will go ahead and look at how we can make this upload component work a bit nicer. So let's take a look at that now. Alright, so now we need to go ahead and set up the configuration here. So inside our app, blade.php file, we need to enable this Luvi CSS file to be compiled. So we're just gonna go ahead and copy and paste that in here, just like that. And then we also want to go ahead and make sure that we add this inside our Vite configuration file here, so that it also gets picked up by Vite. So I'm gonna add these onto a new line just to make it a bit easier to read, and there we go. And outside of that, if you haven't already, make sure you install Table CSS and Animate. I'm gonna go ahead and close this down here, and now we can start working on the upload functionality, which is the first part we're going to be doing in this application. So if we go into our file upload here, we first want to just have a div in here, and we can then go ahead and essentially use the popover component to create a settings for the application. So if we go in here, you can see that we have the ability to add in a nice popover component like this, where we can then specify the, for example, the width and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and publish this component. And I'm going to say we have a div in here with a flex, justify end, and a padding of 4. And then we want to have a popover component in here. So in this case, we'll just have x popover. And then we need a button in here as well, so we would need to go back in and install the button component. And then we just need to have a trigger button here, which we can set as outline settings. And then we need to have the content in here. And for this, we want to set this for a width of 80. And then we can go ahead in here now and set a grid and a gap of 4. And we will just add in settings here. Perfect. So then after that, we want to go ahead below here and have a grid and a gap of 2 and a grid calls 3 with an item center, gap 4. And then we're going to go ahead and install some more of the components. So we're going to have the input component here. And we're going to set up the label component. And then in here now, we can then go ahead and add in a label and also the text in here. So we just need to go ahead and make sure that we have this grid column here for each of them. So we're going to have a quality one. And the other one I'm going to be showing you how we can do is we're going to go ahead and add in grayscale. And we're going to use a switch for this instead so that it looks a bit better. So we can go ahead and set up the switch down here. And we also want to make sure that we create a form for this as well. And the other thing we can look at adding would potentially be the blur functionality, but for now I'm just going to show you how to add these here. Alright, so now that this is sorted, we can go ahead and work on the area where we're going to drag and drop the component into. So we're going to have this as a relative, rounded medium, and overflow hidden. And then in here we're going to have a padding of 6, border bottom, border grade 200, And then we're going to have label in here, which is going to contain, in this case, the drag and drop area. So for this label, we need to have a few different classes added in later on for when we're dragging and dropping. But one of the few classes that we are going to have is, in this case, border gray 300. And then we need to go ahead and add in an image and also the ability to upload the files. So let's get ahead and add that in now. Alright, with that sorted now, let's go ahead into our label here and start, for now, just setting this for file upload. And then we're going to have inside this one here, we're going to have a few different elements. So to start with, I want to also go ahead and style this label for a bit. So we also want to go ahead and add all of these specific stylings. So we're going to have marking on top, flex, justify center, MPX6, PT5, PB6, border 2, make a dash and rounded MD. And then we're going to have another div in here where we're going to have a space Y1, text center. And then we're going to have an SVG in here. And we're also going to have a div in here with a flex, text small, text gray 600. And another one with a relative, cursor pointer, rounded MD, font medium, text indigo 600, and a hover text indigo 500. The first one up here, we just want to make sure there's a div and another div in here, and then for this div in here, we're going to have a span. Upload files. And then below, we're going to have an input ID file upload with a name of file upload. We're going to add this onto a new line. Then we're going to have a type of file. We're going to accept image /star and .hic. We can allow multiple ones and a class of screen reader only. So if we go ahead now and try to log in, and first create a user first, sorry. So let's go ahead and create a user and then we will log in. Make sure we do npm I and npm dev. And then let's head into our dashboard component. In there, let's add X file upload. Or live file upload actually. So let's go ahead and make sure we add that properly in here. And we can see we have this looking like this so far. So still need to work on a few things in here, but let's get to fixing the styling in here a bit better. So inside the label, we do also need another div up here, so that's going to be this one here, where we're going to have all of the data that we take in for uploading files. So we're going to have X data in here. And in this one, we're going to have dropping set to false, progress set to 0, is uploading to false, length to 0, and we're going to have a batch limit to 10, and current batch is going to be set to 1. And then we're going to have a get total batches. And then we're going to have a handle drop with an event inside. And in there, we're going to set this dropping equals false. We're going to set const files equals to array from event data file transfer for files, or event target files, depending on which one is available. And then we're going to have this is uploading set to true, this .length set to files.length, const file batches, which we're going to use to send the batches into the backend with. Then we're going to have a for let I equals 0, where we're going to check if it is smaller than files.length, and if not, we're going to just use this batch limit here to push the files in. And then we're going to start this upload batches, which we're going to just create down here. So that's going to be an async request, which we're going to call upload batches, with batches taken into it. And in here, we're going to have a for iterate through the batches. So const batch of batches. And then we're going to say await this dot upload multiple files, and we're going to then have a batch in here, and we're going to have the progress in here. And then if when we have the event in here, we will set this progress to e.detail.progress. So essentially, we're just going to set it like this. And outside of that, we just need to make sure we then reset this uploading to false, and this length to 0, and this current batch to 1. And now that's sorted here, we can then move this into the correct condition here. And that's everything we need for this function here. So I'm just gonna make sure that the syntax is correctly formatted, so that I'll copy and paste it in here just to make sure there's no syntax issue. So yeah, essentially what we're doing is we are getting the total batches, setting the values here, then we're handling the drop, pushing the drop into an array here, and then we're uploading the batches in here and sending them to the backend. And then essentially we can now go ahead inside our label and specify a few different things here. So if we go into our label now, we can first and foremost go ahead in here and add this to a new line. We can then go ahead and add these stylings here, and then essentially that's all we need to do for the styling in here. So let's take a look. So it still looks a little bit off, so we still need to fix that specific part. So I'm gonna go ahead and just reapply the stylings there. Inside our dashboard page as well, we need to just make sure that we put things properly. So I think we can just leave it like this for now in here, but what we do want to do is just go ahead and fix the styling. So I'm just going to copy and paste this markdown in here so that we have the styling properly looking great in here. And we need to install new seed as well. So let's go ahead and do that now. So if you go to Luvi, for example, here you can see in get started and in installation progress, we can go ahead and require the icons down here. Just gonna close these down so we can see better what's going on. So yeah, essentially, in this case, we're gonna be showing all of the progress here, and then down here we're gonna show the new images when they get uploaded. So this is essentially how the component will look like. And now we just need to fix this border image here where the label doesn't seem to fully get it there, but we will sort that out now. So this issue we can probably fix by just going down here and ensuring that we don't have duplicate labels put in. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is I'm just gonna add it back in again. And there we go. And now it looks about right. So that's essentially how we are planning on making it look in here. The other thing we need to do is inside the popover trigger, we can put this for now just like this. And a set index of 50. Currently it looks a little bit weird in here, so maybe we'll just try to recompile the styling. And so for now, we will just figure out why this popo component isn't properly styled. So if we go into our inspector element, we can check in our head component, see if the Luvi seems to be included inside add the blade.php. Alright, so let's try to see if we can fix that in just a moment. I'll get back to that later, but let's go into our file upload component instead. And in here, let's make sure we add the type safe view. And then let's go ahead and say php and make live form. In this case, let's call this file upload form. Alright, so the first thing we want to do before we continue forward is just make sure we rectify the issue at the beginning to publish the CSS file. Currently, if you go in here, you can see we don't have the Luvi CSS file there, so let's go ahead and publish that. You can see we have now got that publish. And if you go ahead and close down now, we now get an issue here, so I think we just want to run dev again. And we also want to make sure that we also go ahead and publish the Tailwind configuration. So let's go ahead and just do that now. There we go. And now this looks a lot nicer. So you can see we can now determine the quality. For example, we can make it grayscale. And if we were to try to upload something, it would not work yet because we still haven't made it work with the backend. So with that sorted, let's head into our file upload component. And in here, we are essentially sending things through to the file upload backend, which is where we are going to start working on now. So first and foremost, we want to have up here a few different things set up. So I want to go ahead and have a public file set to an empty array. And then we want optimized images, which is the one we will have after it's being processed. And then we will have a form. So if we go back into app, Livewire, forms, we have file upload form. So let's go ahead and say public file upload form. And outside of that, we will go ahead and now create a public function where we are going to have updated files. And in this case, we're just going to go ahead and say this validate. And then we're going to say for each this files as file. And we're going to go ahead and essentially call a function in here, which we are going to have as a private function, store and process images. And then here we can just say this store and process images. And then we can go ahead and say this reset files. And then inside the file upload form, we can have a public int quality set to 80 by default and a grayscale. So if we head into our file upload component, in here we should hopefully be able to see that we have a wire model form.quality and a form.grayscale. Perfect. So we want to essentially go in here and have a try and catch statement in here. And for this, we just want to go ahead in here and do a few different things. So first and foremost, we want to store the images. And then we also want to go ahead and make sure that we only pass through an uploaded file as file. And then we have essentially got Spatty image, and we can use that to pass the relevant things through now. So for example, in here we can set image to upload and then set it in here. We need to put in the original image and the optimized image path as well, so that we can essentially have the original image both for comparison and or further editing, and the optimized image for the background removal, the grayscaling, whatever you want to do essentially on the backend side. So now that we have this set up like this here, we can essentially go ahead and load the image in here. So what we can go ahead and say is Spati has a save function. So if we go ahead and look at Spati images library here, we have the optimization of image, which, as I mentioned before, requires one of these drivers to be installed. And it would then go ahead and do some optimization on the format. We're also then able to, for example, say save, and then save it and store it somewhere. Now, the website I use uses a CDN bucket where we are storing the images. So I'm going to just store this locally just for ease and simplicity, but obviously I would recommend that you store this in a CDN bucket of some sort instead of storing it somewhere else. So let's get started with storing these files here, and then we will retrieve it on the front end, and then we will also add it into a dashboard page where you can then go ahead and see all the images listed. I think we can go ahead essentially, and inside our folder here, let's go ahead and create an image folder, which we're going to have an image processor in. And we're also going to have a few other things in here. So we want to have a contracts folder in here. Inside that contracts folder, we want to have an image processor interface.php. We also want to go ahead and make sure we have, in this case, a processor interface.php. And then what we want to go ahead and do is inside this contract here, we want to start out with that. We can just go ahead in here and say namespace app images, or image, sorry, in this case contracts, and we could put an interface in here which is called image processor interface. And in here we want to have a public function process, which is going to return a processed image. And in this case, a processed image will be something we store inside image here, which we're going to call value objects. And then we're going to have a processed image in here. And then here we're going to have a namespace app image value objects, and we're going to have a class of processed image. And then we can go ahead and import this process image. And outside of that, we just want to make sure we have an uploaded file and an array of options in here, which will be the processing options. So we're just importing that uploaded file in here as well. Perfect. And then inside the processor interface, we want to have in here a namespace of app image contracts, and then a class interface in here, sorry, of processor interface. And we want to have a public function process. It should just be void in here. We want to have a Spati image pass through, and an array of options. And for the image here, we can say use Spati image as Spati image, and that will be it for this one here. So I'm going to close all the files down, and then inside the image, or actually inside the process image first, let's go ahead with that. We want to have in here a constructor where we pass through a private string of original and optimized path, and then we have a public function get original and get optimized path. So that's essentially all we're doing in there. And then in here, we can just go ahead and have a namespace in here. App image, and in this case, that's it. We will have a class in here called image processor. And then we're gonna have this implements image processor interface. We're gonna go ahead and then add method stops, and that's what we've done here. Perfect. So upon processing it, then we always want to go ahead and say return new processed image. And in here, we're just going to have well, we're just going to leave it like this for now. We're not actually going to return the file, get path name twice, but that's what we're going to return at the end of it. But to make sure this properly works, we want to have a try and catch in here where we can catch any exceptions. I'm going to make sure we also import the exception. Just like that. And then we can return in here. What we want to do in here is we want to have a function to set up a temporary file path, the preparing of the image, and then we're going to go ahead and process it and then save the optimized image, and then we're going to return it. So first and foremost, let's create a private function, set up temporary files in here, and this is just going to be a void. It's going to take an uploaded file again with file. And then we should just be able to say this set up temporary file with the file pass-through. And then inside here, we want to have another try and catch. Again, we can add in a doc here for the exception. And then here, we want to have a temporary path, which is file get real path. Then we want to have an extension, which is going to be str to lower, and in this case, it's going to be file extension. And then we're going to have this temporary original path set in a public variable up here. So let's go up and set them now. Private array of processes. We're going to have a private string of temporary path and optimized path. So let's go ahead and finish this function. So what we're going ahead to do now is we're essentially setting this temporary original path in here as temp name, and then we get this get temporary there here. So let's just make sure we have that. And then we're just gonna have in here image slash down here. So if you look inside this function here, you can see that it returns the directory paths used for temporary files. And in this case, this will go ahead and create files with unique file names. So that's essentially all we're doing here. And then we can go ahead and say rename this temporary original file path with the extension. And then we can go ahead after that and say this temporary original path is going to be equal to the extension here. Then after that, if we can't copy the temporary path, or this temporary original path, we need to throw a new exception, and we can just say fail to copy to location. And if extension in this case equals to .hic, we will in that case have a different approach to deal with it, because we need to convert using a HIC package. This is something I'll let you set up yourself later on though, but it's something that I am setting up in this application, and it is able to deal with and process HIC. So that's quite convenient to have that feature. But that's essentially all we're doing in here. So now with that sorted, we want to go ahead and say private function at prepare image. And in here we're going to have a spatty image, or in this case image, but I'm going to, again, for simplicity purposes, just call this batch image. And in here we're going to have a spatty image set here to spatty image load this temporary original path. And then we're gonna have format set in here to this get format str lower. Also not this get format, so we're gonna have this set to str lower. And we're gonna just have this options, which we are gonna pass through up here. By default, we'll set this to WebP, but essentially we can then pass through a format in here. And then we will just say spatty image, format. We also can set this to self supported formats. Which we can just set up here. Just like that. And then we just return spatty image. And that's it here. So essentially now that we have set up the temporary directory, we want to go ahead and have a function in here called spatty image equals to this prepare image with the options pass through. And then we're going to have a for each this processors as processor. And then we're going to go through individual processes in here and process it. So if we go up here to the processors one, this is just an array. And we're going to then go through and add all of these options through in here. Then we're going to have a private function in here, again, which is just going to be to save optimized images, which is going to contain, in this case, a spatty image with a spatty image in here and an array of options. And in here we are essentially just going to go ahead and set the format again. We're then going to set a temporary file path, set the quality of the image by default to 80, and then we're going to go ahead and save it. And then all we want to do at the end here is just have a cleanup method when it destructs, which is just going to clean up the temporary file paths. Alright, so in here we can then go ahead and have processing options set, and we're only actually having to have the quality and the grayscale. And then after that, we can then go ahead and say process image, this image processor, process file, and processing options. And then we can set the optimized image to, in this case, to the image. But we don't want to use the process image if we want to actually create something using the image model. So using the app models image, let's go ahead and make, or actually we don't even have to do that. So if we head into a user model, in here we can have a public function images. And in this case we can say this has many, return this has many image class. And then inside the image model, we have a user relationship as well. So all we have to do in here, we can just say of user images create. And then we just want to go in here and add a few different things. So some of the things we want to add in here is the file name. We want to essentially get in this case, original path and optimized path. And this is where this function comes in handy from the process image we return. And then we can go ahead in this case and store this. So I would recommend you use something like Cloudflare R2, or maybe something like DigitalOcean Storage Box or Amazon for it, but I wouldn't store it in public folder. I'm just doing this for local development reasons. So yeah, essentially all we're doing in here is we're storing it in this public, and we're putting it with optimized image, get optimized path, get rid of that bit of code there, and then all I want to get ahead and do in here now is ensure that we also have a filter set in here. So we can have a filters in here where we say quality and grayscale. And then we can set this to be image, which is what we want in the optimized images. And then now we should hopefully be able to at least see some sort of progress in here. So let's head in and see where that was used. There we go. And then let's see if we can go ahead and, for example, grayscale some images here. So I'm just gonna upload a single image, and in this case we get an error. So we need to pass the value in the file upload, of course. So just need to say file. Okay, let's try again and just see if we can upload the image. And we need to initialize this as well before we access it, which is fine. We can just create a quick boot function in here. And then upon booting, we want to just have image here. And then let's go ahead and go to the image processor. And in here, let's make sure we also call this grayscale processor so that you have the same name. There we go. Let's go ahead and see if we can upload some images. So I'm just going to go ahead in here and upload it. There was no errors, so let's see what we get inside our public folder. Okay, so we have an optimized original. So it's uploading the image, which is great. But it's not processing it, which is fine. We can figure out why that's going wrong here. So for now, if you head into our file upload and our in here, let's check what we pass through here. So let's dive down on this processing options here. Grayscale is set to false, so that's why. If we go into our file upload in here, we should have this to grayscale. Let's try it out live just to see if that makes a difference. Okay, so if we go into our live form, and die dump again on processing options and this form. And then we go in and we upload it and see what happens. So the grayscale in this case is set to true in both of them. So if we try now to see if it works. Alright, let's see what's happening. Alright, so if we go into our images table, we have stored in a database here. All the issue is now is just making sure that we actually grayscale the image before anything happens here. So if we go back into our image processor, let's see what's going wrong here. And it's because we obviously haven't returned the correct path because we didn't change this around. So it's just storing the same here. So that's one issue at least. So we need to get, in this case, we have this called this temporary original path. And then we have this temporary optimized path. Both of these needs to be sent in here, and then we can go ahead and see what happens if we upload an image now. Alright, so the other thing we forgot in here was to say this save optimized path here. We're going to have to spat the image and the options pass through in here. So if we go back now, let's see what happens if we say this grayscale, upload image. I've just deleted the image folder in here just to make it easier. And there we go. It's a WebP image and it's looking grayscaled and it looks like it's been reduced a little bit in quality. If we send this to, for example, 10, let's see if the quality works. Okay, let's just refresh it. Let's set the quality to 10 and see how this would look. So in here, it seems like it's just stored it again in grayscale. So if you set this to 1 maybe. Still seems a bit like it's just taking the same image and put it in there. So that seems a little bit weird. We need to figure out why it's in here not storing it correctly. So I'm just gonna see if we can go ahead down here. And in here we want to go ahead and optimize, set the quality. We can then leave the WebP here as well, and let's see what happens. Wonder why this issue is coming up where it's just taking a similar issue to before. So if we go ahead and just set this to 5. Let's see what's going on. And it's just continuously grayscaling it. So let's see what we're getting through if we try to go into file upload in here. Just see what happens when we do this processing options. We'll set this to 5 and just see if we get false for grayscale. We do, and we get quality 5. Yet it still seems to be consistently processing it in grayscale. So that's something we will have to take a look at and see why that's happening. So in the quality options, we are setting the quality, and in here we are setting the grayscale. So let's go ahead and make sure that we are in the form, setting it to quality. And what I'm gonna go ahead and do as well is essentially see if we can fix it by using most of the original code base and see what's going wrong here, because this looks like a bit of a weird issue. Again, this is not of course showing you how I built the whole platform. Instead, this is just showing you how I started the process. I always like to extract my code into some sort of extra classes here, so that it helps out a bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of these processors here, and let's see what happens. If we go ahead and just set this to 5, we can just have to log in here. This seems to be the same though, so that's still a bit weird in here. So let's go ahead now and check if we have accidentally imported wrong one in here. So we have quality and grayscale processors, which is great. And then we're going through in here, iterating through them. So let's see what happens in here when we look at the image. So we have the original path here, and we have the optimized path. We have the size of the image, and then we have grayscale set to false, and we've got quality to 5. So it seems like some issues happening here when we're passing the value through to the back end. Inside upload here as well, we need to return the image actually. So if we go in here and just say, in this case, it's gonna be returning image. And we're resetting the files here, which is great. So far so good, but currently I think we have this stored in the public folder where we get the contents of the process image. So if we delete these, it still seems to be getting the same one, which is what's going a bit weird here. Let's try to upload some different image here. And let's, for now, just, we don't actually have to return image here, so we can just leave this at void for now. So let's try to go ahead and just set this to 5 and see what's going on. In here we have the grayscale processors and the quality processor, and it still seems to go. So the issue in here, I think, for the grayscale processor at least, is that we want to actually go ahead and have a bit different condition here. We need to make sure it's it, but also that it has it here. And let's see how this works now. If we go ahead in here and set this to 5, and now it's at least not grayscale. So now we just need to make sure that the quality is set in here. So in this case, it would just be a case of ensuring that we have the quality pass through. So inside our image quality processor, we just need to copy and paste this in. And then we have the quality processor imported in here. Let's just see if it goes into the quality processor. So let's go ahead and die dump on options. So if you set the quality to 5, it goes through into here, so that's great. Let's see if it then goes in here. Aim at just being able to display the image in here. So inside the file upload page here, we should hopefully be able to then, below this progress bar, have a for each of optimized images. And in this case, we can go ahead and display them. So let's have that as image. And for now, let's just have a div in here with image file name. And let's go ahead and set grayscale here. Let's go ahead and just upload a few of them. And nothing happens, so let's go ahead and take a look in the browser. Alright, so let's go into our file upload in here. And we have this optimized images. So I think what we will go ahead and do is we will add a few conditions in here. So up here we have an is uploading, so we can go ahead and rely on that. And then we can go ahead and see if there's anything appearing. I think something could be going wrong with the height of the element. Let's just do inspect element and see if we are getting anything in here. We aren't. Okay. So for this optimized images in here, inside multi-image compressor, let's see if we can just go ahead and retrieve them. So I'm gonna go ahead and try to put this as this optimized images instead. And then inside file upload here, when we have uploaded them, we just want to set this to image. And we want to return image in here. Alright, so an issue we're encountering in here is we need to have metasearch turned on. So let's go ahead and run metasearch. Let's see what happens inside here. And we're still having an issue. So let's take a look inside our env file. We have currently set up no configuration here for Scout and metasearch. So I'm gonna go ahead and just add that in. And what I've gone ahead and done as well is inside here, we can just go ahead and get rid of this here. So let's just have image file name show up. Currently we are now getting down here. So what we want to go ahead and do is just see if we can get the file name to display for now. And then we will also just quickly take a look at deleting everything in here and the temporary folder. Get rid of all these test images. then go ahead and grayscale them and put them to 5. We have this file name added in here now, which is brilliant. Let's see what happens on here. Okay, so that's grayscale, perfect. Let's try to go ahead and upload another image here and put the quality to 1. Alright, and then let's go ahead and now work on displaying the image. So to do that, we can go ahead to here and we can have a div in here where we show the image. So we have this image showing in here with the URL, which we can create inside image model. So the URL should always, in this case, we want to have get URL, but it should always return the optimized path. So inside image model, let's go ahead and make sure we return the optimized path. Public function get URL, return this as a string, return, in this case, this optimized path, and then see what happens. There we go. So now we can actually see the image. And if we go ahead now, we can also now have the ability to just show multiple images. So we could go ahead, for example, and say we want to upload 10 images. And it should just upload them here. It batches them, so if you go ahead and upload more than 10, it will essentially do a batch of 10 each time. So if we have 12 here, we will originally first get just 10, and then we get 2 more just afterwards. So that's essentially how the image process works. Now, there's many ways you could go ahead and implement some sort of search functionality. However, in this case, I want to just go ahead inside our file upload here. We can see we have all the files showing in here, but let's go ahead and have another component here, an upload component. So let's make Livewire pages upload, and we already have that, so that's perfect. So if we go into our resources, views, Livewire pages upload, so inside home page here, we want to go ahead and have this Livewire. In this case, it's going to be file upload. No, sorry, not file upload. We're going to have the upload component in the upload folder. And then in here, what we want to do is we would just want to have a list of the images from the user. So what we can go ahead and do in web.php is add in an upload page. And we can have a home page. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these here so we can also import them. And then we can go into navbar, and we can go ahead and add upload. And there we go. So what we can go ahead and do now is inside homepage. For now, we can just go through a small list of images as image. And inside home here, we can go ahead and add a view in here. You can have a public images. Upon mounting, we've set this images equal to of user images latest get. And then we can, for now, just go ahead and draw inspiration from the file upload component. And in here we have this. So we can extract that into a new Livewire component called images. So we can have livewire components dot image and pass in an image, just like that. And then in here we can just go ahead and add it in. Inside here we can go ahead and have the image page. Just have a public image as image. And then inside home, all we need is just livewire components, image, like that. And obviously this looks a bit bad, so let's go ahead and fix that by adding in this grid system. And we also have MT5 one too many times, so let's go ahead and just format that around. There we go. So now we have all these images we can show here. We could take it a step further as well and go into the home page and just paginate it as well. And we could have 12 per page. And then we can have down here images and links. And then we will have this images as index, and instead of having it in here, let's go ahead and just return it in the view. So if we go in here, we can just have an array. And have images pass through in here. And we have a pagination system here. Perfect. So that's everything I'm going to show you for this course. There's a lot more you could add into it, and adding the SaaS functionality, I will make another video on exactly how I implemented it, how we can implement it nicely and neatly so that we can charge customer payments and send them emails with canceling and starting a subscription and so on. But thank you very much for watching this course. Please take a look at my website, CompressMy.Photos, and let me know what you think in the comments down below.